am satisfied that a life sentence is appropriate because of the seriousness of these offences and the other offences associated with them.
Okay then, so I'm not going to interrupt this video at all as I've pieced a load of videos together, and I believe this is my own work, so there we go, I don't have to interrupt it. But it's about time a judge starts slapping proper sentences on corruptness and wrong-uns. All that being said, let's just get straight into this video.
Of work that people search the internet to find indecent images of children. Is that how you obtain this material?
No comment.
Do you other means we know are like via the dark web? People access the dark web.
No comment.
Is that how you go about obtaining this type of material?
No comment.
Other ways people communicate online with like-minded individuals and they trade and they share indecent images and videos. Is that what you're doing?
No comment.
Another method might be to directly communicate with the child, whether that be using a profile suggesting you're an adult or a profile suggesting you yourself may be a child, and then getting children to send material, what we would call first generation material, to you. Is that how you obtain your images and your decent images?
No comment.
That's quite important. What I'm saying to you is when we examine this hard drive and this desktop computer, where we fully examine it, are we going to find evidence of you engaging in sexual communication with children,
No comment.
inciting children to engage in sexual activity and sending you pictures and videos of themselves,
No comment.
indecent images and videos?
No comment.
Therefore, on counts 33, 34 and 85 on indictment 1, and on counts 6, 15, 17, 21, 26, 30, 31, 32, 33 and 43 on indictment 2, I impose sentences of life imprisonment pursuant to section 285 of the Sentencing Act 2020. As to the minimum which must be served, if I had been sentencing the defendant to a determinate sentence and taking account of all the aggravating and mitigating factors and reflecting the overall offending, I would have sentenced the defendant on each of those counts to concurrent terms of 27 years imprisonment. Allowing the defendant the full one-third credit to which he is entitled for his guilty pleas reduces that sentence to 18 years concurrent on each of those counts. As the defendant would have served up to two-thirds of that sentence in custody, I fix the minimum term on each of those counts, which he must serve concurrently, at two-thirds of 18 years, that is 12 years imprisonment. The time that the defendant has spent in custody on remand is not automatically deducted from this sentence by the prison authorities. Any time that would have been automatically deducted had this not been a life sentence should be deducted now, and so I reduce those minimum terms by the 197 days that the defendant has spent on remand in custody. Any error in the calculation of the number of days on remand can be corrected administratively. This means that the minimum term that the defendant must serve before the parole board may consider his possible release is one of 12 years. It is very important that the defendant and everyone concerned with this sentence should understand what this sentence means. It is a life sentence. The minimum term is not a fixed term after which the defendant will automatically be released. It is the term that must be served before the parole board can undertake the first review of the case. The parole board will review the risk that the defendant then presents and will consider whether the defendant can properly be released from custody subject to licence at that stage, and if so, on what terms. I am satisfied that a life sentence is appropriate because of the seriousness of these offences and the other offences associated with them. The level of danger posed to children by the defendant is very high. I am satisfied that that risk will continue long into the future, and it is not possible to say when that risk will cease. These are extremely serious offences, and the defendant was a prolific offender. He has caused significant harm to the victims, to their parents, their siblings, and their wider families. It is clear that he not only gained sexual gratification from his offending, but that he also enjoyed the power and control that he had over these young girls. His reaction to their distress can properly be described as cruel and sadistic. His offending is significantly aggravated by the fact that he was a serving police officer.
And it doesn't finish there. This sick little git has also been charged again and sentenced again. This is from South Wales Police. This is what they had put. This includes his mother in it as well. So let's see what they've got to say.
Main article content. Featured RCT Merthyr and Bridgend. Published 12/19 the 17th of December 2024. A former police officer who was sacked before being sentenced to life in prison for online child sex offences has appeared in court charged with further offences. Lewis Edwards, 24, from Bridgend, was jailed in October 2023 for 161 offences, which included inciting children to make indecent images online and to engage in sexual activity. He was charged with perverting the course of justice by concealing mobile phones and 3 further charges of possession of indecent images. The images were discovered after a mobile phone belonging to Edwards was found concealed in the garden of his home address. Edwards pleaded guilty to the extra charges and has been sentenced to 2 years and 8 months. His mother, Rebecca Edwards, aged 48, of Bridgend, admitted concealing mobile phones in the garden after being charged with perverting the course of justice. She has been sentenced to 2 years in prison. Detective Superintendent Tracy Rankine said, Lewis Edwards is already serving a substantial prison sentence for his abhorrent crimes against children. We are continuing to attempt to identify his many victims from Snapchat usernames to ensure they are safeguarded and supported. Given the scale and severity of his offending, it is indefensible for anybody to seek to obstruct the investigation by concealing evidence, which is why it was entirely appropriate to bring charges of perverting the course of justice in this case. Edwards was sacked as a police officer after being immediately suspended when his offending came to light.
So only after his offending came to light. Well, that's the picture of his mother, and we all know this sick git. But yeah, so they both ended up getting, well, he got an extra 2 years and 8 months. He should never get out of prison. The parole should say it's too dangerous and he should stay locked up forever. I'm glad she got sentenced as well for helping this sick git. But as you've seen, this is why I've jumped in it. I know there's people making videos, but I don't think they've tracked this bit down neither. But harden evidence to pervert the course of justice, and I'm glad they got a good sentence for it. It's a shame that the bloody police had to have how many, well, let me get something straight. I wonder how many complaints he had about him before they actually looked into it and found him guilty, and how long he was allowed to do this stuff for before this happened. Now, the police are always saying you need to trust us, blah, 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 blah. You see it in loads of videos. But how can you trust the police when they've got people like this working for them? And it's not a one-off. It happens all of the time. But that's basically because they're not vetting people properly when they're coming in. It's just tick boxing. We need to fill up spaces as quick as possible to comply with the government's. We need this many officers, and it's not just Labour. It was the Conservatives and Labour before that. It's always been the same sort of stuff. But everything said, what I'm saying now is just my opinion. If you don't like it, tough titty, let me know what you thought of this interaction. I want to thank my members for being a member. If you want to become a member, click the link in the description. Or, yeah, the link in the description or the join button down below. As always, like the video, it does open YouTube's algorithm, and I'll catch you on the next one.